It's not about me. It's not about you. It's not even about us. It's about legacy. It's about what we choose to leave behind for future generations. And that's why, for the next year, and for the first time since 1974, the best and brightest men and women of nations and corporations the world over will pool their resources, share their collective vision to leave behind a brighter future. It's not about us. Therefore, what I'm saying, if I'm saying anything, is welcome back.
The work of a single organization, the Syndicate. A rogue nation, trained to do what we do, imbued with a new sense of purpose.
The Syndicate, you say? Yes, sir. That's what he calls it.
When I first met Jodie to talk about her playing the part, she was very passionate about making this movie. She wanted to play the part even before she read the script, just from reading the book. And she explained to me why, and it was because to her it was a story about saving one person, and I thought it was great that Jodie sort of articulated that to me early on, because it helped me sort of find what I thought was a very, very exciting, interesting kind of subplot.
She said something very interesting about the technique in this, the first confrontation scene between the two main characters. At the end of this scene, you put the camera right square on her, or almost right square on her, so she's looking straight down the barrel of the lens, and then flicked her. Now, she said that the focus was so shallow there that she couldn't move a bit. Why was the focus so shallow? Why did you make it that intense for her?
Well, first, the idea, I definitely wanted to use subjective camera style, where the audience is placed in the shoes of the characters, which is of course a technique that Hitchcock sort of legitimized and capitalized on, and you know, sort of these moments in Hitchcock movies where it cuts to point of view, you realize that I sort of, as a viewer, feel, this is real cinema going on here now. Absolutely. Tack and I have tried, since actually Married to the Mob, we started really playing with subjective camera, and anymore it's a shot we get in almost every scene. We get each character's point of view.
Their eyes are still off center here, aren't they? And then all of a sudden you and Tack, you bring the camera around.
You've got to work yourself into the subjective camera. You can't just sort of pop into it. It works, putting the audience in the character's shoes. There you are. It's got to be intensifying, I believe. And what I love is that not many people seem to notice it or comment on it. It's fairly seamless. With that sequence, we wanted huge close-ups of these two every time they're together, because after all, as Scott Glenn says, don't let Dr. Lecter inside your head. And we want to be right there on the verge of inside the head. And then finally, in the scene when he gets her to talk about her past experiences, it's so tight. It's just, you can't even see her eyebrows, and you just framed right on the bottom of her lower lip, which is as close as going inside her head as we could do.
Thank you. With the glory of being nominated, it's important to note that there was a time in the making of each of these movies when all those surrounding the director thought that he was doing it absolutely wrong. It is the nature of directing to be second-guessed. It's the nature of the director to wonder if anyone
will care about the things that he has cared about for so long. We do care, and tonight's nominations are the clear signal that we could send to you. I almost opened that thing. The nominees are John Singleton for Boys in the Hood, Barry Levinson for Bugsy, Oliver Stone for JFK, Jonathan Demme for Silence of the Lambs, Ridley Scott for Thelma and Louise, and the Oscar goes to Jonathan Demme for Silence of the Lambs.
Well, in the context of my movie-loving life, this is very unanticipated. It's the only way I can really understand this is to recognize that I had the great good fortune to have a chance to work with Ted Tally's great adaptation of Thomas Harris's extraordinarily moral and amazing book, and to have the good fortune to work with the likes of Tak Fujimoto and Christy Zia, Craig McKay and Tommy Fleischman and Chris Newman and Howard Shore and Howard Fuhr and Billy Miller and everybody.
Lord Snowdon has been taking photographs of the rich and the celebrated and the royal for more than 50 years. A contributing photographer for Vanity Fair magazine, his subjects range from Marlene Dietrich and the mentally ill to Mikhail Baryshnikov and the British royal family. Although Snowdon maintains that photography is not art, over 180 of his works can currently be seen in a retrospective at the Yale Center for British Art. I am pleased to have him back on this program, having admired his photographs for a long, long time. Let me start with this. What is it you want to be known for? What is it that you care most about beyond family?
I'm not a stayer, really. I like change.
Yeah.
I like designing. I got enormous pleasure out of designing the aviary at the London Zoo in 1963. And that's still standing, and it's now a listed building, which is quite nice.
Yes.
I hope in a small way I've helped with designing wheelchairs for disabled people and fighting for equal rights and opportunities. And then there's photography. So I jump from one thing to another.
Yeah.
And I don't really have a favorite. I just do like change.
From one
thing to the other.
One thing to the other.
And one leads on to another. I mean, when you very kindly introduced me, you left out, to me, an important part of the things I was trying to do, which is pictures of social problems. Rather.
The reason for my question is just that, to get to that. So, good point. And my impression is that's more challenging for you than celebrated.
Of course.
Portraits.
Yes, absolutely. But not. I said in a book I did on London in 1958. I think photographs should be simple, make people react, to laugh, to cry, but not to wince, I hope. Now, those photographs of social problems mustn't be those taken by a voyeurs, nor must they be taken by somebody who's trying to be a do-gooder. Mm-hmm. They're just showing, hopefully with a certain amount of love and understanding, what's going on in the world. In the exhibition, I haven't seen it yet. I'm going there tomorrow.
The one at Yale.
What?
The one at Yale.
Yes, but it was done at the National Portrait Gallery.
Right.
And there I made the end room social problems. I painted black and had the photographs were quite small. And no music, not to stare, but to make people realize how lucky they are who are going round. I was told not to include them because they were too depressing, but they're not depressing. I think it would be a very lightweight exhibition if you didn't include those kind of photographs. Much more important than the...
Where do you think your instinct to do that comes from?
Hard to say, really. You know how one thing grows out of another? I mean, like one of the great war photographers called Don McCullen.
Yes.
And he's a marvelous photographer. And I think it led from having been around quite a lot of hospitals and having worked on the Sunday Times doing social problems. That grew more and more into mental hospitals. And my grandfather was a doctor to do with lunacy, as it was then called. I didn't know where it came from.
Yeah, but all those things whetted your curiosity.
Yes.
I
think you never know where things come from.
New York. Pressmen wait for Lord Snowdon to appear to answer their questions. His private life has been the subject of rumors throughout the American press recently, and on his arrival from Japan, where he has been on a photographic assignment for his paper, he was besieged by batteries of probing newsmen. Lord Snowdon displayed admirable self-control as he explained there was no truth in speculations about his personal affairs. He is to join Princess Margaret in the Bahamas for a holiday.
You're late, Mr. Bond.
Me? Well, I'd never have recognized myself. Do I seem healthy?
Too healthy by far. Take off your bathrobe, please.
You never say that as if you meant it.
Arms above your head, please. Behave yourself, Mr. Bond. Oh, I can see there's only one place to keep you quiet.
And what's this?
A motorized traction table for stretching the spine. Some patients call it the rack.
I'm not surprised.
Oh, get on.
Where's the Kickstarter?
Oh, stop fooling around and face down, please.
Face down. By the way, who is the man in the room next to your Count Lippy?
I really don't know too much about him. Mr. Angelo. He's here with a private physician, recuperating from an awful car crash, I understand. There now. First time I felt really safe all day. I'll look in and see how you're doing in 15 minutes.
Nice to have met you, Mr. Bond.
Hey, come back! Hey!
You could have been killed.
That must be 6 inches tall.
Oh, you poor dear. I can't think how it could have happened. I can tell you, it's a miracle I came back when I did. I can only think that you must have pushed the switch accidentally. Well, you better come along with me. Spend a few minutes in the steam room. It'll help to relax you.
Yes.
Might even shrink you back to size.
Somebody's gonna wish the day had never happened.
Well, you wouldn't tell Dr. Wayne. Please. I'd lose my job.
Well, I suppose my silence could have a price.
Don't mean, oh no.
Oh, yeah.
This is John W. Sparks. Last September, the film Goodbye Solo made its North American premiere at the Toronto Film Festival. Starring Memphis actor Red West, the film opens this week in Memphis at the Ridgeway. In Toronto, the film's stars and director gave an exclusive interview to the Commercial Appeal.
Well, I'm thrilled to say that we just saw Goodbye Solo, a film we did in Winston-Salem, and Ramin Barani wrote and directed it, produced it, swept the floor afterwards. But he saw the movie I did with Ira Sachs, 40 Shades of Blue, and said, that's the guy I want to play William in my movie.
I got the casting tape from Red, and he sent it to me, reading of the first scene of the film. I watched it for about 5 seconds, hit pause, I turned to the person sitting next to me and I said, this is William, that is the guy from my film.
So he called me up and he sent me his first 2 movies. I watched them and thought they were terrific, especially with, he used no professional actors in those movies. And the performance he got out of them was unbelievable.
This is my first film where both the leads, Red West and Suleiman Sisavane, are professional actors. It's Red's first leading role, which is my distinct pleasure and honor.
The thing, for me, it was almost easy to have this connection with Red. On the set, what I've learned from Red, I can't learn in any school. He told me about lighting, he told me about positioning, he told me about, remember that scene when you punching me?
Yeah.
And it was like, watch out, you gotta turn this way, you gotta walk that way. Because I didn't know. To me, I was like, oh, I gotta walk this way. He was like, if you walk this way, I'm gonna punch you for real. And I don't know if I mean, if you shook his hand, they're pretty like, you don't want to have this in your face. So it was, you know, I mean, where do you learn that?
The film premiered last week in Venice Film Festival to a 10-minute standing ovation. Today we have just won the Preshki International Film Critics Award in Venice. We had a standing ovation here in Toronto, and when Red West got up on the stage, it's safe to say that people were going crazy because he's really given, I think his best performance to date.
I am the son of a very violent, tyrannic father, an officer in the army, and a very cold and aloof mother who was not affectionate. So my mother was not a person that I could go to find refuge. So because she didn't want to be touched. So, I mean, you get a kid that grows with that couple, and I didn't know at the time as a child that you necessarily don't have to love a couple of parents, a couple, mother and father, that don't show you affection and love. So I always felt guilty that I couldn't love them, because I thought that the parents of all the other boys and girls were like my parents. It was a fucking hell, okay? Before Batista was another dictator worse than Batista. So, so when Batista put him in jail, my father tried to commit suicide with a ice pick. And so after he went to the hospital after that, they put him into a clinic for nervous problems. And he stayed there for 5 years. But I was born 6 months before. I born 3/3/33. And my father was sent to jail the 12th of August of 1933, so I was 6 years old, no? And, but when I was about 4, they started taking me to visit him in the clinic. So anyway, it was tragic. Coming from that farm. By the way, in that little Ford, I always went with my father to look for the rest of the food of the rest of the family and friends. So we had to I went down with him to get all this monetza, all this rest of rotten food, and put it in the little car to go to the farm to feed the pigs. And we were smelling, and so I was a child, and my father made me wake up at 4 in the morning, and he was like, if I was the army of one little soldier. So, and he just wanted me to be like a soldier. And I was 4, so. Anyway, when I was 6, it was time to go to school. And I went to the Salesian, La Salle, the Salesian Brothers Catholic school. And it happened that Batista was in power. And after he had to, but Batista was in power, and I happened to be the companion of my bench, of my seat in the class, the companion of Batista's son, Papo Batista. And I was very happy. I was sitting beside the son of the president. I was a child, I was 6. So I couldn't wait to arrive home and said, you know who my companion in the bench is? Who? He said, Papo Batista, the son of the president. My father just beat the shit out of me and telling me that I couldn't be a friend of the son of that bastard. So I grew up like that, and when I was 17, I started being a rebel without knowing that I was a rebel. So, and the only value, my grandfather was very rich. So for me, the goal in life was to make money and to have everything that money brings. So I decided, I went to the movies once and I saw East of Eden with James Dean, a movie directed by Elia Kazan, and Raymond Massey was playing the father, the tyrant. Jimmy Dean was playing the misunderstood boy, and Dick Davalos, his brother, was the one that was loved by the father. And the father always said, I don't know why you are not like him, so putting him down all the time. So anyway, and then I started walking home. It was at night. I was like 19 at the time. And I started thinking of the movie that I just saw, of the character that Jimmy did. And his name was Caleb. And I thought, how strange, because Caleb is like Cain. And the good brother was, like Cain and Abel, the bad and the good. So the boy decided, the character, Jimmy's character, decided to, hiding from his father, to plant beans, and it was the war, and the price of the beans went very high. When it was the time to make the collection of the beans and sell it, he made a lot of money. And in a paper bag, he just filled it up with bills and went to offer it to his father. The father, instead of saying, thank you, accused the character, Jimmy's character, Caleb, to have stolen the money. So, and said, you punish him again, give that money to whoever belongs to. So I said, oh, fuck. But in me, it was like a click. And I identify with that character that Jimmy played. And then while I was walking home, I thought, why can't I do that?